Red wine dripped down my chin while my daughter shouted across the table, "You're being selfish." Her voice cracked on the last word. Across from me, her husband Ryan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, smirking like he'd already won some game I didn't know we were playing. I reached for my napkin slowly, dabbed at the liquid on my face, and felt the sting where the wine had splashed into my eye. My hand stayed steady even though my heart was racing. I pulled out my phone from my cardigan pocket and typed 4 words to my attorney. Phase 1 is complete. Ryan's smirk faded when he saw me texting. My daughter Lydia went pale. They thought they'd broken me. They had no idea what was coming next. My name is Marian Keller. I'm 61 years old, widowed for 8 years now, and I spent 30 years as a guidance counselor at Jefferson High School before I retired. I live alone in a craftsman bungalow in Portland's Irvington district. It's a beautiful neighborhood with old trees lining the streets and gardens that bloom every spring. My house isn't massive, just 2 bedrooms, but it's mine. I bought it with my late husband Thomas back in 1998 for $215,000. Today it's worth over $1 million. The neighborhood changed completely. Young professionals moved in, tech workers, people who renovate everything and install solar panels. I raised my daughter Lydia here after Thomas died of pancreatic cancer when she was only 14. I did it alone, paid off the mortgage, saved for retirement, built a life I thought would keep us both safe. Lydia is 33 now. She works as a marketing coordinator for a software company downtown. She married Ryan 3 years ago after dating him for only 9 months. I had concerns from the start, but what mother doesn't worry? Ryan worked in commercial real estate, always talking about deals and investments and opportunities. They had 1 son together, my grandson Oliver, who just turned 5. Sweet kid with curly brown hair and gap-toothed smile. They lived in a condo in the Pearl District, nice enough but expensive. I knew they were stretched thin financially. Lydia mentioned their mortgage payments once, complained about daycare costs, but I figured that was normal for young families. I saw Oliver maybe twice a month when they'd visit for Sunday brunch. Those mornings were my favorite. I'd make pancakes, and Oliver would help me flip them, giggling when batter splattered on the counter. Things started changing about 6 months ago, right around Easter. Lydia began bringing up my living situation during every visit. "Mom, this house is too much for one person," she'd say while washing dishes in my kitchen. "You're getting older. What if you fall? What if something happens and nobody's here?" I'd brush it off with a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. The neighbors check on me. I have my phone." But she kept pushing. Ryan joined in too, always casually, like he was just making conversation. "Marian, have you thought about estate planning? You should really have your documents in order. Or, if you ever needed help managing things, Lydia and I could step in." The way he said it always felt off, like he was reading from a script. I noticed they started visiting more often, always with expensive wine or fancy cheese, gifts I never asked for. By summer, the suggestions became more direct. We were sitting on my back porch in July, drinking iced tea, when Lydia brought up power of attorney. "Mom, you should sign one over to me, just in case there's an emergency. It would make things so much easier if something happened and you couldn't make decisions." I set down my glass carefully. I appreciate the concern, but I'm perfectly capable of handling my own affairs. Ryan jumped in immediately. "Of course you are, Marianne. Nobody's saying you're not. This is just standard planning. Responsible adults do this." The way he emphasized responsible made my stomach turn. I told them I'd think about it, but I had no intention of signing anything. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, remembering how Thomas had looked in his final days, how helpless he'd felt, how much he'd hated depending on others. In August, they escalated. Lydia showed up unannounced on a Wednesday afternoon with printed documents. "I had our lawyer draw these up," she said, spreading papers across my dining table. "It's a simple power of attorney and healthcare directive. You just need to sign here and here." She had a pen ready. I picked up the papers and read through them slowly. They weren't simple at all. These documents would give Lydia complete control over my finances, my medical decisions, everything. "This gives you authority to sell my house," I said quietly. Well, if you needed to move into assisted living or something, it would streamline the process. Ryan appeared in the doorway then, like he'd been waiting outside. It's really for your protection, Marianne. I set the papers down. I'm not signing these. Lydia's face tightened. Mom, don't you trust me? This isn't about trust. Then what is it about? The argument that day got heated fast. Lydia accused me of being stubborn and paranoid. Ryan kept using phrases like cognitive decline and diminished capacity, medical terms that felt like weapons. We're trying to help you, Lydia said, her voice rising. Why are you making this so difficult? I stood my ground, because these are my decisions to make, not yours. Ryan's mask slipped for just a second. His jaw clenched and something cold flashed in his eyes. Then he smiled again, that practiced real estate smile. Let's table this for now. We don't want to upset you. They left shortly after, taking their and signed papers with them. I watched through the window as Ryan's BMW pulled away. My hands were shaking. I made myself chamomile tea and sat in Thomas's old reading chair. Something was wrong. This wasn't normal concern. This felt calculated, predatory. I thought about my former students, the ones who'd come to my office with problems at home. The next morning I called Harper Dane, an estate attorney whose daughter I'd counseled years ago. We met for coffee at a quiet cafe near my house. Harper was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with silver hair cut short. I explained everything. The pressure about power of attorney, Ryan's comments about cognitive decline, the sudden intense interest in my finances and property. Harper listened without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she looked up. Marianne, I see this pattern every single week. Adult children getting impatient about inheritance. They start testing boundaries, making suggestions, then applying pressure. It often escalates. My throat felt tight. What do? We build a fortress around your autonomy. We document everything, and we prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Over the next hour, Harper outlined a plan she called Phase 1. Phase 1 had multiple steps. First, Harper arranged for me to undergo a complete cognitive assessment with a geriatric specialist. You need documented proof that you're mentally sharp, she explained. No signs of dementia, no impairment. When they try to claim you're incompetent, and they probably will, you'll have recent medical evidence proving otherwise. Second, we'd update my will with ironclad language and multiple witnesses. Third, we'd establish a living trust with very specific instructions about who could access what and when. Fourth, and this was Harper's idea, we'd install hidden cameras in key areas of my house. If they're planning something, Harper said, they'll eventually reveal it. And when they do, you'll have proof. The camera suggestion made me uncomfortable at first. This was my daughter, but I remembered Ryan's cold eyes, those in signed documents, and I agreed. The cognitive assessment happened on a Tuesday in September. The geriatric specialist, Dr. Patricia Nguyen, was thorough and kind. She tested my memory, problem solving, attention span, language skills, everything. We spent 2 hours going through various exercises and questions. At the end, she smiled. Miss Keller, your cognitive function is excellent. You score well above average for your age group. There's no indication of any impairment whatsoever. She provided detailed documentation with her letterhead, test scores, date stamps, everything official. I felt relieved, but also sad that I needed to do this at all. Harper was pleased when I showed her the results. This is your shield, she said. Keep multiple copies in different locations. That same week, a security technician came to my house and installed 3 tiny cameras. One in the mantel clock in my living room, one in a decorative frame in the dining room, one hidden in the kitchen bookshelf. The cameras were so small I sometimes forgot they were there. They recorded continuously to a cloud storage system I could access from my phone or computer. Harper stressed that Oregon was a one-party consent state for recording, meaning I could legally record conversations in my own home without telling others. I felt like a spy in my own life. By October, Lydia and Ryan had backed off slightly, probably regrouping after I'd refused to sign their documents. They invited me to Sunday dinners at their condo a few times. Everything seemed normal on the surface. Oliver showed me his kindergarten artwork. We ate roasted chicken and talked about the weather. but I noticed Ryan watching me constantly, studying me like I was a puzzle to solve. Once I caught him taking a photo of a prescription bottle on my bathroom counter when he thought I wasn't looking. November arrived with cold rain and gray skies. Lydia called me the week before Thanksgiving. "Mom, why don't you host this year? Like old times. I'll help cook. Ryan wants to contribute too. It'll be nice, just the four of us and Oliver." Something in her voice sounded forced, but I wanted to believe it was genuine. I wanted my daughter back, the one who used to help me bake pies and laugh at my terrible jokes. "That sounds lovely," I said. We planned a menu together over the phone. Turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, Thomas's famous bourbon sweet potatoes, pumpkin pie. Traditional comfort food. Lydia promised to bring wine and flowers. The days leading up to Thanksgiving, I cleaned my house thoroughly and decorated with autumn leaves and candles. My kitchen smelled like sage and butter. I roasted the turkey Wednesday night so it would be ready to carve. Everything looked perfect, like a magazine photo of the ideal family holiday. Thanksgiving Day started clear and cold. Lydia, Ryan, and Oliver arrived around 2 in the afternoon. Ryan carried a bottle of wine that looked expensive, something French with a fancy label. "Burgundy," he announced. "Save this for a special occasion." Oliver ran straight to me for a hug, his little arms tight around my legs. "Grandma, I made you a drawing at school." He handed me a crayon picture of our house with all of us standing in front, stick figures holding hands. My heart squeezed. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. I'll hang it on the refrigerator right now." Lydia kissed my cheek, wearing too much perfume like always. "Everything smells amazing, Mom." We settled into the living room while the final dishes finished in the oven. Oliver played with blocks on the floor. Ryan opened his expensive wine and poured glasses for the adults. The bottle made a hollow sound as he set it on my coffee table. Dinner started pleasant enough. We sat around my dining table with the good china I only used for holidays. Candles flickered between serving dishes. Oliver sat on a booster seat between his parents, kicking his feet and eating mashed potatoes with his fingers. I said grace like I always did, thanking God for family and blessings. Ryan raised his glass for a toast. To Marianne, for her wisdom and generosity in hosting us today. Something about the way he said wisdom felt mocking, but I smiled and clinked glasses anyway. The turkey was perfect, moist and golden. Everyone complimented the food. We talked about Oliver's school, Lydia's work, the weather. Normal family conversation, but I felt tension building like a storm approaching. Ryan kept refilling his wine glass. Lydia barely touched her food, just pushed it around her plate while glancing at her husband every few seconds. After we finished eating, Ryan leaned back in his chair and cleared his throat. "Marianne, Lydia and I have been discussing something important. We want to talk to you about it." "Here it comes," I thought. My stomach tightened. "What is it?" Lydia jumped in quickly. "Mom, we're worried about you managing everything alone. This house, the finances, all of it. We think it would be smart to set up joint access to your bank accounts, just in case there's an emergency." "Joint access," I repeated slowly. "Yes, so if something happened and you couldn't handle things, we could step in immediately. No delays, no complications." Ryan added, "It's standard practice for aging parents. My own mother did this with my sister. It gives everyone peace of mind." I set down my fork carefully. "I appreciate your concern, but my finances are in perfect order. I don't need help managing them." Lydia's face flushed. "This isn't about needing help, Mom. This is about being prepared. What if you had a stroke? What if you fell and broke your hip? Someone would need access to pay your bills, handle things. I have automatic payments set up for everything important. My attorney has clear instructions if something happens to me." Ryan's voice got sharper. "Your attorney doesn't care about you like family does. Why would you trust a stranger over your own daughter?" "Harper isn't a stranger. She's been handling my affairs for months now." That surprised them both. I saw Ryan and Lydia exchange a look across the table. "Months?" Lydia's voice went up. "You've been planning behind our backs?" "I've been protecting myself." "From what?" "From us." Lydia stood up suddenly, her chair scraping loud against the floor. Oliver looked scared. "Mom, this is ridiculous. We're trying to help you and you're treating us like criminals. The argument exploded fast after that. Lydia called me stubborn, paranoid, ungrateful. Ryan accused me of being selfish and unreasonable. Do you know how much our mortgage costs? Lydia shouted. Do you know how expensive childcare is? We're drowning financially and you're sitting here in your $1 million house, completely alone, refusing to let anyone help. Help with what exactly? I kept my voice level. Help yourselves to my assets? Ryan stood up then too, his face red. That's insulting. We're talking about family security, about making sure you're taken care of. I am taken care of, by myself. You won't be able to do this forever, Marianne. Eventually you'll need us. And when that day comes, you'll regret pushing us away. Lydia grabbed her wine glass. Her hand was shaking. You're being selfish, she screamed. And then she threw it. The wine left the glass in a red arc that seemed to move in slow motion. The wine hit my face with cold shock. It splashed into my eyes, my nose, my mouth. I tasted the bitter tang of it. Some went up my nose and I coughed. The liquid dripped down my chin onto my cream-colored sweater, spreading in dark stains. The glass itself missed me and shattered against the wall behind my chair. Oliver started crying. Ryan grabbed Lydia's arm, but she yanked away from him. For a moment, nobody moved. The only sound was Oliver sobbing and wine dripping onto my hardwood floor. I reached for my napkin with steady hands, even though everything inside me was shaking. I dabbed at my face slowly, methodically. Then I pulled out my phone from my cardigan pocket. I could see the camera in the mantel clock across the room, its tiny lens recording everything. I typed 4 words to Harper. Phase 1 is complete. I hit send. What are you doing? Ryan's voice had an edge of panic now. I stood up slowly, wine still dripping from my hair. I'm documenting that your wife just assaulted me in my own home. It was an accident, Lydia said quickly. She was upset. She didn't mean, yes, she did. I walked past them into the bathroom. In the mirror, I looked like a horror movie victim. Red wine covered half my face, soaked my sweater, matted my gray hair. My hands were finally shaking now that I was alone. I heard them arguing in the dining room, their voices urgent and hushed. I washed my face with cold water, changed into a clean shirt, and came back out. They were all standing in the living room. Oliver clung to Ryan's leg, still crying softly. I think you should leave now, I said quietly. Mom, please, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Lydia. You assaulted me. I want you out of my house. Ryan tried a different approach, his salesman voice smooth again. Marianne, emotions ran high. We all said things we shouldn't have. Let's calm down and discuss this like adults. I am calm, and I'm asking you to leave my property. You're going to throw away your relationship with your daughter over spilled wine, over assault, over financial manipulation, over attempted exploitation. Yes. Lydia started crying then, big dramatic sobs. I can't believe you're doing this. I'm your daughter, your only child, and you just threw a glass at me because I won't give you access to my money. That shut her up. Ryan gathered their coats while Lydia kept crying. Oliver looked confused and scared. I felt terrible for him, but this wasn't his fault. They walked toward the door. Ryan paused with his hand on the knob. You'll regret this, Marianne. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Family is everything. Don't forget that. They left. I locked the door behind them and stood there for a long moment. The house felt very quiet after they were gone. I went back to the dining room and looked at the destruction. Wine splattered on the wall, broken glass on the floor, the beautiful Thanksgiving meal barely touched and already cold. I took photos of everything with my phone. The wine stains, the broken glass, my ruined sweater. Then I called Harper even though it was a holiday. She answered on the second ring. I got your text. Tell me exactly what happened. I recounted every detail while walking through the house. Harper listened in silence. When I finished, she said, I'm coming over. Don't clean anything up yet. We need proper documentation. She arrived 30 minutes later with a camera and a notebook. She photographed the crime scene from multiple angles like a detective. How do you feel? She asked me. Sad, angry, relieved, strangely. The cameras caught everything. Everything. Good. We moved to phase 2 tomorrow. Phase 2 started Friday morning. Harper filed a formal police report about the assault. A police officer came to my house to take my statement and photograph the evidence. He was young, professional, patient. He asked detailed questions and wrote everything down. "Ma'am, do you want to press charges?" "Yes, even though it's family, especially because it's family." He nodded like he'd heard this before. The officer explained that Oregon law took elder abuse seriously. "You're over 60. She's your adult child. This falls under specific statutes with enhanced penalties." That phrase, elder abuse, made me feel old and vulnerable, but it was accurate. Harper also filed paperwork with my bank flagging any suspicious account access attempts. She updated my will with explicit language. If Lydia or Ryan contested it or tried to claim I was incompetent, they'd receive nothing. Zero. We set up an education trust for Oliver, completely separate, managed by an independent trustee. He'd get money for college when he turned 18, no matter what. Over the weekend, Lydia called 17 times. I didn't answer. She left voicemails that started apologetic and became increasingly angry. "Mom, please pick up, I'm sorry." Then later, "You're being ridiculous. It was just wine." Then finally, "Fine, be stubborn. See how that works out for you." Ryan sent text messages. Professional, calculated. "Marianne, let's resolve this like reasonable people. Think about Oliver. Think about family." I forwarded everything to Harper. Monday morning, 2 police officers went to Lydia and Ryan's condo. They interviewed both of them about the assault. According to Harper's contact in the department, Lydia initially denied throwing anything, then claimed it was an accident, then finally admitted it, but said I'd provoked her. Ryan backed her story, but they didn't know about the cameras. Harper submitted the video footage to the police and the court. The footage was crystal clear. Lydia screaming, throwing the wine deliberately, the whole thing. No ambiguity, no accident. By December, the legal machinery was in full motion. Lydia was formally charged with assault. She hired a lawyer who tried to get the charges reduced or dismissed. But the video was damning, and the elder abuse aspect made judges less sympathetic. She ended up pleading guilty to assault in the 4th degree with a domestic violence enhancement. She got a conditional discharge with 2 years probation, mandatory anger management counseling, and a no-contact order. She had to stay at least 100 meters away from me and my property. The judge was stern during sentencing. "Ms. Patterson, you assaulted your elderly mother in her own home because she wouldn't give you access to her finances. That demonstrates a troubling sense of entitlement and poor impulse control. This court takes elder abuse extremely seriously." Lydia cried throughout the hearing. Ryan sat in the back row looking furious. I sat with Harper, quiet and composed. I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad and empty. Christmas came and went without family. I spent it alone, which should have felt lonely, but instead felt peaceful. I made myself a small dinner and watched old movies. On New Year's Eve, I received an envelope in my mailbox. Inside was a drawing from Oliver, crayon on construction paper. It showed a bridge over a blue river with flowers on both sides. No people in the picture, just the bridge. No note, no return address, but I recognized his handwriting on the envelope. I cried looking at that picture. A bridge. Maybe someday we'd rebuild one, but not now and not on their terms. I hung the drawing on my refrigerator next to the Thanksgiving picture. Then I went to my living room and looked at the mantle clock, the one with the hidden camera that had recorded everything. I thought about boundaries and self-respect and survival. My daughter had called me selfish for protecting myself, but choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary, especially when the people who should love you try to take everything you have.